doesn't cast any aspersions on what we're trying to do today, but, we've been able to get deals to the board for CTA, for ASOP, our non-bargaining, which is staff miscellaneous, our principals, APs, ASOP with the principals, APs all went to the board last Wednesday. So hopefully maybe we can get a deal today, but we'll start with everybody introducing themselves because we have some new people at the table. Dr. LaCava.
Hey, good afternoon. Gonzalo LaCava, Chief of Human Resources. Nice to meet you guys again.
Dennis Weiner, Assistant Chief over Support Services Bureau. Nice to see you all.
Vicki Evans-Prey, Director of Employee and Labor Relations.
Mike Burke, CFO.
Heather Canoose, Budget Director.
Mark Mitchell, Director of Compensation and Employee Information Systems.
Mary Powers, Manager, Labor Relations.
James Wilkerson, School Police.
Kevin O'Sullivan, School Police.
Larry Fagan, PBA Counsel.
Alexander Lopez, School Police. Michael Lynch, School Police.
Well, again, welcome. We had some conversations back. We're running up to a kind of a deadline on us. We have to have the unions ratified by April 17th if we want to do retroactive pay into this fiscal year. If we go past April 17th, we can still do retroactive pay, but it can't be processed until after the close of the fiscal year. So it'll be July or August sometime when we can process those payments. So in those, in light of those restrictions, I had sent emails to the union and said, can we just do salary only and get the money into the hands of our employees? Because, looking at what Tallahassee's doing and seeing that the administrative law judge ruling that we just got, there are some issues out there that could affect our finances. So I'd like to get the money to our employees and get it, in the books as quickly as possible so that if something comes up that our employees do get this raise. So what we provided to CTA, obviously, that we've talked about it before, that their raises are based on or formulated through legislation. Statute basically tells us you can't give a highly effective this much more than effective. So we gave them basically a 3% pot of money, and we then divvied it up that way through our statutory obligations. We did the same with ASOP. They did some minor tweaks so that they could raise a level for a particular group. And with staff, miscellaneous principals, the 3% is what they were given and what they've approved. So I have in my hand, hopefully something we can all agree upon today, if you're still amenable to it. Let me pass this down. So Mary's kind enough to pass that around, and you'll see the front page. The first couple of pages are just, who's on the board, who was on the district's bargaining team, and who's in the PBA's bargaining team. The preamble, the only thing we changed were the dates, just leaving it blank, so it's, effective 2019. And then you'll see our district proposal for today is Article 20. There's only there's one change on page 3. We struck through the language we had for performance last year, which was that it was held in advance for 1 year, so we struck that language. And then the only other change is on page 2. It's 20.5. The district would like to increase the wages for all our police officers by 3% going back to January 1.
Any other changes?
No other changes.
That's your proposal today.
Unless you want to open up more, then
Oh.
we have other things we can open, but no, we wanted to get
No, we're
this
here
done.
for salary,
Okay,
and that's how I viewed this.
okay.
I'm grateful that you wrote something up. I'm glad we have something hard to look at. And I understand the proposal. I think we anticipated something in that neighborhood, understanding previous discussions. This was Wednesday, March 13th, 2019. This was the Palm Beach Post. Here it is. Hopefully people have seen it. Police, dad took AK-47 pistol to school. West Palm Beach, when Christopher Freeman's son FaceTimed him in tears Monday afternoon from school The 27-year-old father knew something was wrong. The boy told Freeman that a teacher at Bear Lakes Middle School had slammed him, and Freeman's statement to Palm Beach County School District Police, while they were on video, Freeman saw an adult grab the boy. The phone went flying, the call ended. Freeman hurried to school, forgetting that he had a pistol. Continued on A8. Officer Mike Lynch is a rep now. He's at the end. This is what he got. I hope everyone sees this. This is, I guess, what purports to be an AK-47 gun. Guns, guns, guns. Now I have 1, 2, 3, 4 experienced officers that are sitting here. Some have been here a while. Even though Lynch, who did a marvelous job in capturing this weapon, he came from another agency, as we know is quite common for school board officers. I got a link to a YouTube video where Chief Kitzrow is talking about his priorities, and he indicated, we wrote it down, he wants to be a preeminent agency in school policing. He wants to set the benchmark for school policing. Even better, to be #1 in the nation. And he said his priority, and he said it multiple times, is officer safety. We are asking for 6% in an effort to retain experienced officers, to attract more officers, because Chief Kitzrow said he wants to be either 300 or more than 300 officers. In 160 schools that I know of, 3 have metal detectors. Any more? You guys know more than that? There needs to be a high-quality, schooled officer to handle these campuses that you are currently paying over $100 an hour for other agencies' coverage. 6% is our counter.
Well, I must tell you, I mean, 3% is basically what we have. We don't have anything more than that. And I can have Mr. Burke talk about that. I mean, other agencies, PBSO, the county can raise the taxes at whim, at will, if, you know, to support raising officer pay. We don't have that flexibility in the school district. We're a special taxing district. We don't have that flexibility. We were given a 47% or 47%, I wish, 47 cent per student increase last year. And we have somehow managed to pull together 3%. We do not have 6%. Last year you got 5. That went far and above what anybody else got. And we simply do not have the money to give you a 6% increase. We have 3%, and I can let Mr. Burke talk about our budget a little bit more.
I just want to clarify the 5. That's with the 165 monies, et cetera, frozen.
For 1 year, but that 5% is still in their pay today, and the rest of that money is back in play.
Yeah. All right. Well, I don't think, we stand behind the chief's comments. We're familiar with the incident that took place at the school. But the money situation is, for the last 2 years, Florida school districts have gotten a 1.39% increase per student, and that's really the measure of how we see our revenue growing. Last year, though, that 1.39% really wasn't 1.39% because a lot of the money was earmarked for safety, for safe schools, and the legislature put $97.5 million statewide more into safe schools. We got about $6 million locally, but there was also a requirement that that increased funding had to go for hiring more officers than you had the year before. So it didn't give us the flexibility to say, well, hey, let's recognize our existing officers and do more for them. It was stipulated we had to add more officers. So our hands were tied a little bit with the budget. We are, if anyone, I mean, I could bring in my own news clippings of what's going on in Tallahassee as far as education funding, and it's pretty pathetic. So we're always in this position each year, and it doesn't seem to be getting any better, where we're trying to do better by our employees, and the state is treating us in the way they pay for students' education. We don't think, when we work to get to a salary reserve, we recognize the importance of all professions, and that's not to diminish the work in any way the police are doing, but we feel like, our teachers, the bus drivers, custodians, the front office, they're all part of this effort, and everyone is hopefully having a renewed focus on safety. So we worked hard to get to 3%. We're trying to get these deals settled and be able to, do it in a timely fashion. And we didn't really come to the table with, we're not trying to lowball it at the start. We're pretty upfront about, we've been able to get to 3% with the teachers. We've got 3% with the principals, some of the ASOP, our clerical group. And we were hoping maybe you guys would recognize the situation we're in and be able to work with us.
Does everybody understand that the law enforcement job is not the same as it used to be? Do we recognize that it is much more fluid and changing, and it is different than it was? Do I have agreement on that?
We can agree with that, but I would also, it's different for our teachers, it's different for our principals, because, when we see the school shootings, the teachers are the ones that are the fatalities, the teachers and the students. So we recognize school safety is an issue. And so we are putting out as much as we can for wages. I understand your concerns. There are concerns for everybody who works at a school site or even in this building. It's not something that you share by themselves. It is a different world. It's a world where we're afraid, some people are afraid to send their kids to school, that they have that concern. And
Listen to that. That is...
I understand that.
Listen to that. That's more than just a statement. That is, we're parents too. That is a
I'm
frightening
a parent, you are a
statement.
parent, you and I have had these conversations. And it's not on a daily basis, but occasionally there'll be something that happens in the world that triggers it, and you worry about being safe, not just at school, but at your church, at your mosque, at your synagogue. People are worried about everything, about where they go. But at this point, we are an educational institution. We get our funding from the state. We don't have a lot of flexibility where we can get the money. We came in today with basically, this is all in. We don't have anything more than 3%. We just don't. So if you want to, we could prolong the negotiations. If you want to get to 6%, we're going to have to find it somewhere else in the contract to find the other 3% in order to fund that kind of a raise. Just like with ASOP, we said, here is the 3%. They wanted to raise the one of the groups up a level. In order to do that, anybody hired after January 1 of 18 is getting a 0.5% increase. They're not getting it because the money isn't there. So we have to come up with a way. If you want to get to 6%, we're going to have to find it somewhere else in the contract because there isn't any money anywhere else.
You fellas have anything before we caucus?
I just have a question. Was it a half-cent tax that they added a while ago for security and vehicles and everything? Or was it at 1 cent?
There's been 2 referendums, and in 2016 we passed. It was a 1 penny sales tax, but it was a partnership with the county government and the cities across Palm Beach County. So we get 50% of that. So you could call that a half cent.
Okay.
And that's strictly for government infrastructure or capital expenditures. That's what we're going to be using to help pay for some new vehicles for the school police. But we're also buying buses and technology, and we're replacing roofs and air conditioners, and really addressing, most of it goes to, the vast majority goes to address deferred maintenance in our schools. And then more recently in 2018, we had a referendum for a 1 mil levy. 1 mil is a property tax that the voters approved, and that's also helping in 3 major areas. First, we've always had a 1/4 mil that was passed that's been around since 2010. So through this 1 mil, we increased it. And the first thing we did was we continued to pay for about 700 teachers in our fine arts and choice programs. And then about half the money is going to go to teacher retention supplements to address some teacher pay concerns. And then the balance of funds is really going to safety and security and mental health initiatives. So as we're building the budget for next year, we've added more positions within the school police department quite a bit. We've added mental health workers in our schools. And, there's a lot of work going on to deliver on that promise to the voters.
If you had to put a number on in dollars, how much went to school police for vehicles, for equipment, what would that number roundabout be?
On the equipment side, I need to double check. I know we have security projects that you wouldn't recognize probably as school police, but it's single point of entry and
cameras
things
and
like
things like
that.
that.
So I would have to kind of break that down probably to say how much is for equipment for the department versus campus hardening. I can tell you on the operating side with the 1 mil, that's more salaries and benefits to add more officers, add some additional command staff, because with the new officers, you've got to have some level of supervision. And that piece is more like in the $20 to $25 million range.
Okay, so 20 to 25 million would be an estimated guess. And that came from that millage or that extra?
It will. It starts next year.
It will. So that doesn't affect the state budget that we get, that the school district gets from the state.
That's a local reaction to the poor state funding where we said, look, the only way we're going to get more money is to take care of its situation locally here.
So in other words, that 20 million is saving the operating budget that comes from the state, $20 million, because it's coming from a different entity.
Well, it's not, I wouldn't say it's saving us. It's allowing us to do more, and it's allowing us to grow.
And it's allowing us to spend less.
Just even with the increase we got from the state last year, no, it's not allowing us to spend less. We have an independent oversight committee that's part of this funding source of citizens. When the state required an officer in every school, they provided us some additional money. It wasn't enough. And we're kind of, this year, the district had to kind of eat that. And, as we staffed up, of course, we want to have all of our officers handling that, but we are using some outside contracts. And as you mentioned, they're kind of pricey. So we're trying to work our way out of that and recruit, and the department's done a great job. But we had a considerable cost this year that went above and beyond the state funding. What the referendum's allowing us to do is to pay for these additional staff. It's not really saving us money, but it's giving us the money to do what we need to do and what the community is expecting in terms of safety.
How much was the 3% going to cost? How much was the 3% going to cost?
3%, what I look at it district-wide, so every percent increase for our whole workforce costs about $10 million. So it's costing us about $30 million. For your group, we can pull that up, but you guys are, compared to our teachers union, you're a relatively small group of employees, so we got 13,000 teachers. That's usually about 70% of our cost of increases. But we can get that for you. I don't want to guess at the number.
And how many officers, new officers, will that include for the new budget?
So we've got about 110 new positions within school police as part of the referendum
right now.
Well, no, that's adding on for next, probably take a couple of years to get them all staffed. But we added 75 officers this past year. We had about roughly 152 officers. We had 75 positions after Marjorie Stoneman Douglas.
But for this budget year, though, what are you guys budgeting for the new officers? Is what I guess I'm trying to get at.
Are you asking?
Like how many officers we're including in this budget year that you guys have budgeted for that are coming up?
So we had 75 in the current 18-19 school year, and we're going to add about another 75.
Another additional 75 will be now in the new budget year.
Right, but then that number grows when you start to include some of the command and the sergeants and things in the K-9 units and other pieces of that.
And how are you structuring the command staff's salary? Because I noticed that the chief's salary went up, then the assistant chief, everybody's branching out, their salaries have gone up. Is it based on, what in general is it being based on, is what I guess what I'm trying to figure out.
I'm
Is it
not
like a
really-
traditional police
I
department?
don't think there's been
Is it
necessarily
a-
restructuring. I don't think we've done really formal restructuring. I mean, there's been individual hires, and the superintendent has some latitude. You know, we have a salary range, and the chief police, the school police chief is now at a higher level than it used to be. He rewrote that job description. So, yes.
And I guess that's what I'm getting at, is
Okay.
because now their positions are moving up in higher levels and stuff. And I guess our positions in the field are also expanding. So I think we're trying to also try to stay at that pace also. You know, I think that's why we're looking for a little bit more. For the last, how many years we didn't get a raise, or it wasn't kept up.
Well,
And now we're still, our top guys, the starting salaries is not that bad. It's the top guys who are still lagging behind.
All right, and with that, I'm going to jump in. Wilkerson, James Wilkerson, Officer Wilkerson at the end, he's been here 18 years. 18 years, verging on being here close to 2 decades. A new hire and Wilkerson, if you put them side by side, he is $8,000 higher only. For an 18-year employee to be only $8,000 higher than a new hire would be. I don't know that that is a good way to retain experienced, loyal officers.
If I can just add on to that just a little bit, I came from an agency who changed their things drastically, and they believe that they can keep officers, and they can recruit officers, and it didn't work. And now it's costing them more money in the long run. They lost all their senior people. So it's a trickle-down effect. And there's another agency I know of that went a little bit different. They took care of all the new officers specifically so they can bring them to the agency. And now they lost all their older officers. And now they're even having a hard time trying to recruit officers to their agency. I think the recruitment and retention is our ultimate goal, but without our senior officers, who we really need here to keep the legacy here and train the new guys on how the school board runs, the school board police run. They're losing a little interest of staying here at the same rate. They can move to other agencies real easily now and stay in the FRS and not lose any time. So it's very important that we get these guys where they belong, is I guess where I'm coming from. And I'm a new guy, and and I plan on spending some time here. But without getting the senior guys in places they belong in the salary scale, we're going to start losing them at a quicker pace. And we need those guys to help recruit. They're our best recruiters. You know, they have friends from other agencies that they could bring on board. But unless they have something to offer them, and it looks like there's nothing, to look forward to, you're not going to get raised as a step plan, as in regular or traditional agencies have. I think that's where we're going to start running into problems.
We have provided raises the last 3 years. Actually, with the 5%, I know you guys helped us get it there by giving up some things for a year, but that would actually put you a little bit maybe above what the other groups received. We did go through the Great Recession, and that had an impact into to Officer Wilkerson's situation. It sounds similar to like what our teachers had. So when our funding was cut, and we didn't enjoy the recovery like cities and the county did. So when the property values came back, and the city is able to, the commissioners or the county commissioners are able to, they've kept their same millage rate for 8 years. And so their tax rate's the same for 8 years. And what that means is that as the housing market, when it crashed, we all got hurt. But when things started to recover, as the property values grew, they were able to bring back in more revenue. For school districts, the legislature sets our tax rate, and they've been adamant about cutting taxes, so they keep rolling back our millage rate, and it's taken money out of school districts across the state. So that has hurt us, that has led to, and then you have to keep your starting salary, you're trying to keep that competitive, and if the raises are in the 2 to 3% range, we know how that occurs, and that was one of the things we dealt with our teachers. So we can look at that. Heather, were you able to look up what the 3% raise costs?
It would be approximately $450,000 based on the current officers that we have right now.
And how many is that, the officers-wise?
We should have about 225.
225, we're looking at approximately 75
Approximately 225.
additional after that, though. So about 300 total we're looking to get.
It was an additional approximately 110.
Okay.
The other piece of looking at salaries is, and Mr. Mitchell's our expert, but we do compare ourselves to the market to see if we're competitive. We look at not just school districts, but we look at other law enforcement agencies, and we have to also factor in our schedule and our contract period may be shorter than some of the other agencies, but that's something Mr. Mitchell's department routinely looks at, and we can share that data as well.
I know that we talk about for years now that this group of officers has summers off. And when we talk about the parity with the teachers, I just want to make sure that something is very clear to everyone. I think it is, but I don't know that it's been said that often. Regarding the summers, these guys don't get extra work. All right, so and we know that a teacher can become a summer camp counselor or a bartender or whatever to supplement for that summer that income that is missed for 2 or 2.5 months or so. Police officers have training. What is it? How many on and how many off for that?
2 weeks, 2 weeks a month on, and usually 2 weeks.
Can you get an extra job?
No.
No. So that is dead time. That summer is dead time. Now, I know that we talk about other agencies, and they are 365 days, et cetera, and that we are not, but that time is dead time. I just want to make sure that that's stated, because it's talked about a lot. Well, they have summers off, and that they're different than other agencies. Yeah,
I think,
I'm sorry, I've done this last negotiation, I'm going to correct it once again, okay? We do more appearances. That means me getting out of my bed and in my car and going to work than traditional police agencies in this county. That is a fact, and I'm going to drill that home, because the great thing about these meetings is that our membership watches this and hears this. And as opposed to years ago where it was like kind of in a closed session where the dialogue was not as professional as it is here. So that's why I want to say what's great about that. And that is a fact, what I'm saying, okay? Jupiter, because what happens is that these police departments do 11.5 hours, they do 2 on, 2 off, 2 on, 3 off, some version of that. They work 100, and Jupiter Police, an officer told me last week he works either 181 or 182 days a year. And God bless him. That does not even include him taking off his vacation time, sick time, and his comp time and such like that. So that is a fact, okay? What I'm going to say is we are here representing the membership of our police department, okay? And I have to say is that what I find very disturbing before I go into what I'm going to say is I've had new police officers, I would call them new jacks, they just got here and they're looking to leave already. I had a call, honest to God, yesterday. Person's been here for less than a month. Why? Because they feel that, A, I'm being thrown out there. I'm not trained. I mean, they're experienced police officers, but I'm being put in a situation where I don't know even how to put the computer on. They're seeing that, and they're coming to the realization that this, I would have to agree that the starting salary is not the issue here, in Kevin O'Sullivan's opinion. I can't answer for these gentlemen here. The problem is, in which you know, in which we've tried to address, is, and I know you have it with the other unions, is the compression issue. Compression. It's not right that Officer Wilkerson makes $8,000 more after 18 years of service to this district than a new hire who just walked in the door. What I'm going to say is from our membership, okay? It's not to attack anybody, but, you know, I'm here to represent my membership, verbatim. Chief is making $30,000 more a year than his predecessor, plus added 2 new assistant chief positions, which they assume are six-figure salaries, adding more command staff. Police officers in the schools are doing a job today, which is what it was not just a few years ago. I've been here 13 years, and we're being asked to do more and more, and Lord knows I'm a worker. I don't mind rolling up my sleeves and get my hands dirty. I don't mind doing that, and anybody else here is, because that is what is happening, and whether some people are new here or might not be aware of it. We have veteran police officers who have left within the last year. One guy I was telling for years to go. He said, no, I want to stay here. And finally, he woke up and he smelled the coffee and he got out of here. And he was on an, well, I'm not going to get into that, but he finally left. He did not want to leave, but promises of and taps on the back that we're doing a good job doesn't pay the rent. Okay? So that's what it is. And I have to, and I know the history of being here. I am the senior negotiator here. I've been doing this here 9 years, and plus my time in New York, it's probably about 25 years. I know I don't look that old, but I've been doing it that long. And I understand. I was in management most of my career. I was like him over there most of my career. I understand that. But you know what? Management doesn't do the job. Who does the job? We do the job. Our people do not feel that they're being respected in that way. Again, people who have been here for a long time and they're beating us to death. What about a step plan? What about a longevity? The 3% raise might be a nice thing. It is. I'm not saying it's not. But what happens is that people take a step back and say, damn, I'm not going anywhere here. And that's why they're leaving. Or what happens is that once the green machine opens up their hiring more, you're going to have a flood out of here. So that is something that you have to take into consideration, is that you're in the policing business also, okay? And I'm going to say it right up front what people are saying. Should I hold it?
We'll wait till.
I'll wait. We'll wait till after caucus.
Anyone have anything else right now?
Yeah, let me add something. Good morning. Yes, I have been here 18 years. I'm going to tell you why I stayed. I had 2 sons come to the school district. My youngest one graduates May 17th. I've had the opportunity to watch them grow up, attend their events as a school police officer. In 2008, I processed with the sheriff's office. They offered me a job. I decided to stay a little longer. I got promoted to commander. Then I decided to step down. I have watched my counterparts who have came to this agency with me leave, and they're making $20,000 to $30,000 more a year than I am. I am working harder now, doing more than any road patrol officer will ever do. The other day, Tuesday, there was a call about a possible gun on a campus. I was a senior officer on scene. I had to coordinate what was going to be done. I had to plan out what was going to be done until I was relieved of my duty. Not only that, at my school, Royal Palm Beach High School, I am responsible for getting officers, assigning officers, planning security details for events at the high school. How many road patrol officers do that? Not one. Not one. And every year I listen to teachers. My wife is a teacher. Love her. Love teachers. But they don't do what I do. I go in the classroom. I present the kids. When I first got here, that's what I did. 17 years ago, I stood in this same room and watched the people on that dais and tell them the reason why I would end up leaving here. I have watched the videos and seen teachers, teachers, teachers. I understand that's the primary role of the school district, is to take care, is to educate kids. But on the same token, if kids or parents or teachers or other people don't feel safe, then what good is the school? I'm not a teacher. I'm not a teacher by trade, but I do educate students about life and the choices they make every day. They come and talk to me more than some of them talk to their parents about what's going on in their lives. This year, May 18th, I become a free agent. I'm free to leave the school district. And many of my counterparts have told me the same thing. And I'm going to back up what he said. I have trained new officers who are already looking to leave this agency because they're saying there's no way I could buy a house, I could sustain my family if I stay here more than 2 years. So that's something I want the district to start looking at. Yes, I understand 3%. Okay, I'm not going to knock that. But at some point, when do you take care of the veteran officers and those who wants to stay here and do the job? Because this job is bridging more than a gap. We're doing more now than I ever did as a school police officer. So I know you're going to keep saying we just don't have it. We just don't have it. We can't give you more than what we give the teachers. I'm not a teacher, I'm a cop. I get phone calls when I'm off, like I did yesterday, about safety concerns at the school. Teachers don't get those phone calls. I get calls sometime at night about what we're going to do. This is the threat that I'm hearing. Did you hear about this? Teachers are not getting those phone calls. Cafeteria workers are not getting those phone calls. Bus drivers are not getting the phone calls. It's us. Principals are calling us about the safety of the school. And that's what I want you and the board and everybody else in this district to think about. We are the ones who put our lives on the line to ensure that our teachers are safe in a classroom, that the students can learn. We are the ones responding to bus calls when cities are saying, no, we don't have nobody, and these kids are fighting and doing everything they're doing on the buses. We are the ones sometimes that have to go to a bus stop because the cities don't want to deal with it or the counties don't want to deal with it to ensure that the bus can be safe riding from the bus stop to the school because of the students on the bus. It's the police officers in the schools who are making sure education can take place. Because without us, there is no education. And when parents don't feel safe, they don't want to talk to the principals. They call the cops and ask, is it okay to send my kids to school? I know because I get those phone calls from parents who know me and have known me before the child even got to the school. So I want y'all to think about that when you're saying we just don't have it. If it's only going to cost $450,000 to give us a raise, you mean to tell me this district don't have sitting in reserves another $450,000 to give us something decent so those of us who enjoy coming to work, doing this job with pride every day and has done it for more than 10 years can continue to do that and take care of our families? You're happy when we do something and it brings great news to the about the school district. Well, we want to be happy too. And I'm asking you all to go back to the board and say, we need to take care of our officers. We do an outstanding job. We are the best law enforcement agency in this county, in the state of Florida. We have more experience in this police department than the sheriff's office. We can run circles around them. I'll take any law enforcement officer we got, even our new ones, and put them against any road patrol deputy or officer in this county, and we will run circles around them and more than school policing. Thank you.
Well, I think we're ready to caucus. I would request that in your caucus you consider, the 3% and get some movement there because we would like to get a deal today. I understand what your concerns.
Mr. Lopez? Yeah, can he say one thing just
Mr.
before
Burke
we...
has a question.
Okay.
Well, this, I guess, an observation. So we're hearing a lot about the concern about the salary compression and the more senior officers, but your proposal of 6% doesn't do anything really to address that. It's a flat across the board 6%, right?
Well, for now, yes.
well, it was offered, right? So,
Yes.
So, okay.
That's why they call this a negotiation. I'm not being a wise guy, okay?
But you hear the points we're stressing and where we're stressing it, I would imagine.
The question I had was, I believe it's for Mr. Burke, that, when the Stone and Douglas Act mandated that there's an officer in every school, you said that we didn't have the money. Obviously, right off the bat, they didn't supply us with enough money, the state. but we still did it. We still covered every officer, an officer in every school. Where did we get the money to pay those officers?
Yeah, we had to redirect.
Yeah, you shuffled it from another account. So the 3% that the district is proposing, that's all they have in this pot. We know that by past practice is that there's more money, it's just shuffled into somewhere else. And it, if need be, it can be arranged to fulfill the 6%.
These officers go to an overtime job? They're driving their own cars.
Well, overtime, I mean, you guys, we've talked a lot about officers and teacher pay. I think we're now paying a starting officer more than a teacher. Our officers are making on average over 30% of their salary in overtime earnings. I know they're working to get it, and we appreciate it, but the earnings potential for an officer is far greater than a teacher right now in this district. But hey, we've had a lot of conversation. I think it is a good time for a caucus. I think we can relay some of what we've heard from you, and I want to be able to brief our superintendent. Our superintendent will want to brief our school board. So I think we've hit, like Ms. Evans-Prey suggested, it's probably a good time to caucus if you choose to do that. And we're here.
If we could have about 30 minutes.
Sounds good.